My name is Elena Peteva. I'm originally from Bulgaria. If you love it, you become really good at it because you invest yourself and you make it happen. That's, you want to have a fulfilled life. So I tell my students always this because we can count on having one life for sure. Some of us believe that maybe there is something after that one life, but if you know that you have one for sure, you might as well do exactly what you want. I came to study art in the United States when I was 17. I went to an art high school and finished sophomore and senior in art high school, and then my undergraduate degree was here and my master's. And ever since then, I have continued to follow my passion.
What do you think about the decrease of craftsmanship in art?
Great question. I have pretty strong feelings about it. However, I think everybody has to make a decision for themselves. To me, what I want out of my work and the works that I draw inspiration from and really highly respect, they have both. They have incredible craftsmanship and very strong concept, and the marriage between the craftsmanship and the concept, they only support each other. I feel like one needs the other. Mm-hmm. But this is my truth. I'm not saying this should be the truth for everybody. Because then, one will be applying their own ideas on others, and everybody has their own truth, truly. The decrease of craftsmanship, yes, it's something that has been happening for a long time. I think it will be something that it will change over time and it will come back. I spoke earlier about the Greeks, the Romans, and the Middle Ages, and then back to the Renaissance. I think in art there is something that is like a wave, and it withdraws and then comes back.
So can you kind of shed some light on how the two cultures have influenced your art creation?
Bulgaria is in Southeast Europe. So we have the Byzantine tradition of Byzantine icons, and when you do something, sometimes you don't know exactly why, the very reasons you do what you do and the decisions that you make in your work. But when I have looked back on my work, I have realized that the tradition of Byzantine icons has been a very important thing in my work, in the decisions that I make as far as the centrality of the work, the lack of context, having the subject be decontextualized and act as a symbol instead of representing reality.
What are you trying to convey through these kind of vacancy?
Absence and presence. So simultaneously, I want the images that I represent to function as metaphors for something beyond themselves. I do like the relationship between the pedestal with the small pile of charcoal, and then the drawing of it engaging with each other. Something much deeper than that, and I want them to have the presence of the pen, but at the same time speak of the inevitable absence of everything, eventual absence.
Do you plan before you do artworks?
I do, actually. I always start with sketches on a small scale. I have one of my studies in the show. So the ideas come in the sketchbook and in the mind, and then the sketchbook, and then I use myself often as the model in order to realize the images that I'm after. Mm-hmm. So I become the actor to realize what the filmmaker has concocted. So I'm simultaneously the filmmaker and the actor for my own work.
Yesterday, one of the students in my class actually touched one of your works, and then we were just extremely surprised. So like, I just want to ask what you think upon like the kind of level of value the modern art world has placed artworks right now. Because personally, I think it's been placed too high. So I kind of want to learn from what you think.
Excellent question, actually, because it's true that things are put on pedestals, things are put on the wall, they're put behind glass, especially if it is a really important masterpiece, bulletproof glass even.
Yeah, the Mona Lisa.
Yes, yeah. So I think, yes, there is this phenomenon, especially in the 20th and 21st century, where art has skyrocketed as far as prices in auction houses too, and has become inaccessible really to big parts of the world or the general public. So I think anyone should have access to the work. I think it is also so touching work. I think there is a difference between putting the price of work, how expensive, overly expensive some artists have become, and kind of almost like in social classes, the very, very rich, and then the majority of being middle or lower middle class and below. So in the art world, there is this very similar phenomenon where there are the few very, very famous artists and very, very expensive artists, and then the rest who are selling for much more reasonable prices, but the contrast between the few and the many has become a little too stark. The way in society, economically perhaps, is the same. But touching art and not touching art, or the preciousness of art, this is a little different. I think there is a certain level that art should be respected on a certain level, because it is not a bowl of fruit, or it is an art form. But art can also be interactive, and I think engaging the viewer, whether it is on a physical level to interact with the work itself, or on an emotional level or intellectual level where you engage the viewer in a dialogue with your pieces, is very, very important. And it doesn't always have to be with physical contact, but engaging in a way where the work doesn't make the viewer feel like the work is elitist.
Why do you think a piece of modern art can sell that much and other pieces cannot?
Okay. So same goes for music. There are incredible musicians who are unknown.
No, but for music, like, it matters how much the audience thinks. But for art, I think it kind of can be the opposite. Like, even if a lot of people hate it, it can still be sold at a very high price.
Okay. Yes, that's true. So curators play a big role in what becomes recognized as very important and high art, or highly recognized art as being very prominent or of prominence on an international level. So trends in art too, what is considered to be the high trend, the thing that is of special importance now versus not so much. For example, figurative art and representational art has been the underdog in the art world for decades. That doesn't mean that there aren't famous figurative or representational artists, but we have kind of gotten used to being the underdog and still make great work and have some recognition. So I think curators, institutions also, museums, where the network, I guess, decides what is going to be of higher level or a level of recognition versus what everybody else thinks. But I do think it's not only in the visual arts, maybe especially so in the visual arts, but not only. Because again, I know of great many incredible writers and musicians who have not necessarily reached global recognition and are still exceptional.
Do you think diversity in art has reached a saturation point? Because there's so much abstract going on, and I just think that like people can no longer create something that's more crazy than sticking a banana on the wall.
Yeah. Something has been said about painting again and again. I'll just use it as an example that painting is dead. And maybe the same thing could have been said about drawing, that everything that could have been made has been made. Critics and writers in some decades ago said that, and then more recently again, it has been said again. But I think it's a little bit foolish to think that everything that could be made has been made, because in the end, unless we're really copying things word for word in an image, we all look back at what has been made before us and we reconsider what has been made before us and our time now, today, through our own lens as an artist. So inevitably, we're going to draw from what is happening here and now and what happened before. And the influence and the ideas and the imagery will come true on some level, but inevitably we will also have our own voice. So the uniqueness, going after the unique, I think is a kind of a foolish endeavor, because unique doesn't make something necessarily good just because it's new. But also, if we just repeat what has already happened, then what are we contributing? So in a way, it's respecting and drawing from what has taken place, but then contributing with our voice, with hopefully something new, without it having to be, oh, it's never anything like this has ever happened before. I think that's could be a little bit of an immature thing. It's like, I want to invent the new in capital letters, but what is this? Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's wrong to copy an art?
To copy?
Yeah.
No, it's not wrong. We learn from copying from others. We'd be fools not to look back.
I mean, like when we do like a art piece on our own, like a creative piece, usually I've interviewed a lot of artists and they usually say that they take a lot of inspiration from others. Mm-hmm. So do you think that's right?
I think it's right depending on what you do. I don't think it's possible for anyone to truly identify 100% and love another artist 100%. And I'll answer the question a little bit kind of along the way. Because truly we are our own beings. So I may, as an artist, and when I was an art student, I may really be inspired by the mark making or the use of the material of a particular artist, but then not be so drawn to the way they work with the imagery or the ideas that they choose to depict via the imagery and the use of material. So in a way, as long as these influences are very selective, like when we identify what is a specific thing that we so respond to in somebody's work, and we take it and we consider it, it's almost kind of like taking something and digesting it and making it your own. So there is a difference between copying somebody 100%, because then it's like, why do this? Why just try to be somebody else? You'll never be somebody else because you're not this other person. You're somebody, a different person, different artist. So as long as it's a certain aspect of the work, then you digest and make your own for your creative purposes, then it's a completely natural process and very important too, because we don't exist in isolation. All artists over the centuries have looked back and have learned from the past and reconsidered and again added something new. It's a tradition. But if we try to become somebody else, it'd be a very false act and a really impossible act.
So where does our art actually originate from? Does it originate from like people in the past, or is it actually our art?
I think it's a mixture, really, truly, because whether we realize this or not, or recognize it or admit to it, everything that we see becomes part of our way of seeing and thinking. When I go to an art museum or gallery, the images that I see become part, especially the ones that I'm taken with, become part of my library in my mind. And even if I don't remember that I've seen it, it is somewhere in my mind. So when I start thinking about certain images or ideas, inevitably all this information, visual information, or literature or movies that I've been exposed to, or music, subconsciously informs what I do. So in a way, when I work with my students, I tell them, well, it's important to go see exhibitions as much as possible in person, because if you grow up in a white cube and you don't see anything else, everything that you're going to draw will be about the white cube. So yeah, it's a natural process that we all inform each other, and it's about what we do with all these influences.
Right. Where do you think the art trend is going to leave us in the future?
The art trend?
Yeah, if we all follow what others do, then what do you think is going to happen in the future?
Well, I mean, I should say that sometimes we follow what has been done in the past, but we also reconsider it and alter it, or completely change it, or rebel against it. So it's not always that we go in unison. Sometimes we consider it and take the opposite position. But it's important to consider what has been done before in order to make our decisions and our position in relation to the past and to the present. So it's really quite hard to know what will happen in the future, because the trends are unpredictable. What will be the future trend? But I know that I'll give an example. I work in drawing, and drawing is very important to me, and I teach drawing too. I've also been aware for a while that drawing has been pushed against in many educational institutions as something that is perhaps something of the past, or skill as something of the past that is not necessarily important, which is something that has been said since the 60s and then the 70s and the 80s and on and on and on. However, drawing continues, and it's not drawing of the 19th century or the 20th century, it's drawing of now. So it does continue to evolve. So I think similar things happened in the past. The Greeks had incredible knowledge, which is revealed artistically in their sculpture, and an incredible skill. The Romans learned it from the Greeks. And then during the Middle Ages, all of this was forgotten and lost.
Not completely.
Almost completely. They just...
Really?
And only came back in the Renaissance, when luckily they brought
that's
back.
Controversial. A lot of authors also think that like it's not fully like demolished, but...
Yes, but there was the...
Yeah, but it was like a back set.
The ability to create the sculptures, those incredible figurative sculptures, it wasn't taking place for centuries. And then it resurfaced and it was brought back. So I feel like in art there is a little bit of a circular phenomenon too, where yes, drawing was very important, and then drawing was in a way rejected, but then it resurfaces again in a different form, being reconsidered. And I think it goes for everything. We go forward, but also we go
in a circle. So it's going back.
And forward simultaneously. Yeah.
Why did you choose to do drawing, and charcoal drawing specifically?
Well, I love drawing, I love painting, and I love printmaking, and I've done a lot in all three areas. However, being a full-time faculty and being a full-time artist, I have to careers that are very much connected. So I only have so much time. And if I have to choose where I dedicate the time I have in the studio, I have to choose my biggest love, which is drawing. And if I had indefinite amount of time and did not have to sleep, I would probably do a lot of painting too and printmaking. But just like on the planet, when we have only so much time in one's life, so you kind of choose what you want to do with that one life.
Yeah.
And I've chosen drawing because it's the thing that, if I have to choose, it's the thing that I most deeply care about.
Why did you choose to do like realistic drawings?
I think of them as representational versus realistic, and I would like to draw the distinction between the two. In a realistic drawing, you draw reality the way we see it. In representational and the way I work with them, I take images from our world or things from our world, but I construct representational imagery with recognizable subject matter to create metaphors. So they're not really reality, they're visual metaphors using elements of reality to create something else that is not real.
What about like using just strong contrast of only black and white? Like I'm referring to like those, like the poles and stuff.
Well, it comes the love of drawing, the love of printmaking. I love etching, which is very much connected to the graphic image. But I also often think of in Baroque painting, there is a lot happening, and you attract the viewer with the elaborate colors and everything that's happening in the composition. There is power in that, but there is also power in a distilled image when there is very little, but it's very powerful. So the power of a lot and the power of a little thing. So in a way, when I think about the drawings, I'm interested in the power of value, the power of light, the power of contrast, the power of black and white versus the power of color. I think value and color are equally powerful in terms of evoking emotion in the viewer. Just like black and white photography and color photography. They can be absolutely incredible, but they're distinctly different. So I think in terms of black and white, when I imagine images that I want to create, and this is what I do. It would feel a little artificial if I impose color on my ideas because they come in black and white.
Thank you.
So in a way, if I were a photographer, I would be a black and white photographer. And those photographers are about light.
What do you plan to do in the future?
I cannot seem to shake the interest in charcoal. And charcoal as a material and charcoal as a metaphor. So I still want to continue this series of where that subject of charcoal, which is ash or carbon, and see how far I can push it, because I love the material of charcoal, but I love the thing of charcoal and what it stands for, which is the end of everything.